comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money,
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
Okay, so if you guys find box office boring, you're going to find this video boring, because I'm going to talk about box office here. I used to have a series all about this, and I stopped for a good reason. But surprised to know when Avengers Endgame was the biggest opening of all time for any movie in the history of ever. Surprised absolutely no one. No one thought, you know, that movie, it can't be the biggest opening of all time. I mean, some people were like, no, it's not going to be Infinity War. But the whole time I was like, it's going to frickin' destroy Infinity War. Or maybe not destroy. I didn't think it would actually do that much better than Infinity War. My prediction for this movie was at a $275 million opening, which would have been pretty much by far the biggest opening of all time. I thought it could be a lot bigger than it, and like 20 million bigger than Infinity War. Not too much. But I'm going to explain, for those of you who don't understand this, and let me adjust the camera a bit, I'm going to explain exactly what makes this opening, the opening of a $350 million, so gigantic. If your movie opens up with $100 million, you are guaranteed a success. That is a really solid opening right there. Most blockbusters are around that big of an opening. Some of them are even less. That is a very solid opening right there. $100 million, really good. $150 million, you are guaranteed $1 billion at that point. That is it's really solid opening. You would be pretty much be given $1 billion at that point. Maybe not always, but usually you would be. 100 or just 200 million, and then you're guaranteed at least 1.4 billion, maybe 1.5. Sometimes they don't reach that point. And not all, these are all estimates. Some 150 millions have not reached $1 billion, some have reached $1 billion, far beyond $1 billion. But if you are to open up with 200 million, you're one of the biggest openings of all time, and you will obviously make more than $1 billion and go far beyond that as well. If your movie opens up with 250 million, there are only 3 to ever do that, which are Endgame, Force Awakens, and Infinity War. And I know Force Awakens opened up with 247 million, but that movie, I feel like 247 is close enough to 250 million for me to count it. Anyway, Avengers Infinity War broke the record for biggest opening of all time at a 257 million, which is really gigantic. That is huge. And it really, by 10 million, edged out The Force Awakens, which is very impressive by that movie. Endgame, I knew would edge out Infinity War, but I thought just a bit more. Still in the 200 million range. So we were like 300 million. I thought, yeah, the more this movie coming up, the more I feel 300 million. Not only did this movie smash my 275 million prediction, not only did it smash 300 million, it smashed $357 million and had a worldwide opening of $1.2 billion. The biggest opening of all time is 257 million US. This movie made $100 million more than Infinity War in its opening weekend. That is insane. That is unheard of. This movie, Avengers Endgame, will hold the record for biggest opening of all time for years. Nothing can beat this movie from its top point. Maybe Rise of Skywalker will easily beat 200 million, maybe even 250 million. But it will not be 350 million. That is unheard of. And it didn't surprise me. When I read this, I thought, okay, it kind of makes sense. There was so much hype behind this movie. Everybody online was like, don't spoil it, don't spoil it. I haven't seen it yet, not at my school today. More kids than usual actually watched this movie, but a lot of kids actually said, I didn't see it. I was going to see it, but all tickets were sold out on opening weekend. And I thought, yeah, that's kind of what you get. But I don't live in a big city. I live in a small city, so that's surprising. Endgame was the biggest opening of all time by far at 357 million. And the worldwide opening is even more impressive. Like, that is hysterically impressive right there. Because the biggest worldwide opening of all time was Avengers Infinity War at like a 650 million. Yeah, this movie opened up with 1.2 billion, okay, let's put this in perspective. This movie, in a matter of 3 days, made more money than Captain Marvel, which had been out for around 4 to 5. It's been out for well over a month now. Endgame destroys Captain Marvel in 3 days. It destroys Aquaman, the most successful movie into the DCEU, in 3 days. Yeah, that's kind of insane. It destroys Infinity War's opening weekend by double. That is also insane. It will destroy Black Panther this week. Not this weekend, this week. It can make 100 million this week. And this weekend, its US second weekend will be 170 million plus. So what do you expect? Do you think this will have any... Do you think any movie has any hope of staying in their current positions? This movie will crush Jurassic World really soon. Like, in a couple weeks, this movie will have destroyed... In a week, or maybe just a week, it will have crushed Jurassic World. The original Jurassic World movie. The movie that made $1.6 billion. It will have crushed that movie. And then in at least a month, it will... Maybe even less. It will have crushed Infinity War and The Force Awakens. And probably Titanic. And then its biggest challenge yet, can Endgame beat Avatar? Everybody can theorize about this. Will it beat it? Well, Infinity War pretty much was like barely there and it grabbed on to a huge $2 billion movement. So I think this movie could do a $3 billion, honestly. It could beat Avatar. There's a really high chance it will. There's a chance it won't. The thing about Avatar, if you guys don't know why that movie is so successful, some people are like, wait, what? That's the most successful movie ever? The reason why it is A, that time the movie was released end of 2009, beginning of 2010. From December to March, there was no competition. The movie, Crazy Rich Asians, not really as good as Crazy Rich Asians. But you remember how that movie opened up with like a 25 million, the next week it made 25 million, the next week it made like 20 million, and it got the channel super huge. Like how we just no competition. There was no competition for Crazy Rich Asians, so it just racked up money. That is what Avatar happened, but just imagine Crazy Rich Asians, let's say 3 or 4 week streak. Just imagine that for like 4 months. That's what Avatar did. And that's just the US. It racked up as one of the most successful of the US. It's the second biggest in the US. Right now, The Force Awakens has almost a whopping $1 billion in the US, which honestly, I could see Endgame beating that, but I could also see it not beating that. Honestly, you guys might be thinking, what? No. Endgame will beat it. And sure, maybe the 110 million more on its opening weekend will say something. But this Endgame will make a lot of money, be most successful Marvel in the US. And will be this big, beat Avatar in the US with ease. But can it really beat Force Awakens in the US? I don't know. It could. There's a chance it will. But you guys realize Avatar's made $2 billion worldwide. So I don't know what happened everywhere else. I know it just racked up money in the US like crazy just for 4 months. But I don't know what went down the rest of the world. I guess so many people were like, 3D. And did you know that movie's 3D cut was banned in China? That is funny. The most successful movie ever was partially banned in China. One of the biggest box office areas ever. Transformers Age of Extinction is a movie that is legitimately built to be successful in China. Seriously. But honestly, it's kind of hard to predict where this movie will go. You could predict where Infinity War would go because you could follow the tracks of Force Awakens. You could follow the tracks of the movie being really just a little bit bigger than Force Awakens. You could almost argue Force Awakens had a more successful opening weekend because Infinity War just made more money on its Sunday run and kind of Saturday. Like, its opening day was not as big as, like, the movie wasn't looking to beat Force Awakens, but it finally pushed through and beat it, barely. Endgame, literally the entire time, everybody was like, it's gonna be Infinity War. And it crushed Infinity War. So right now, we have no sense of direction where this movie could go. I can't base it off Avatar because that movie opened up with 140 million and just racked up money for a couple months, which Endgame is not doing. It opened up with 357 million. Probably doing Infinity War where it drops into 50% range. It actually could hold higher because there's no competition. The week after, though, I think Detective Pikachu will do... Might not even be number one. It probably will be number one as long as the movie opens up with 80 million. I think that's 75 to 90 million is where I think Detective Pikachu will drop. And that is enough for the movie to be successful and enough for it to beat Endgame. But, on that note, can John Wick 3 hold against Endgame? If Detective Pikachu can, John Wick 3 can. And the next week, Aladdin is just... It's far enough away from Endgame for it to explode. I kind of want that movie to do a solo right there. Like, what if we actually all came together and didn't go see Aladdin? I mean, I'm going to go see it because I kind of want to see if it's really going to be funny. Can it just be funny at least? I just want to see it, see how bad it is. I'm not seeing Secret Life of Pets 2, though, at all. I do not care. The first one is just really boring. I do not care about a sequel. It's going to be so predictable, and I hate it. And the trailer sucked. So, whatever. I got really off topic here. But the point is that Endgame will do an Infinity War just on a bigger scale. It will tumble. I repeat, there will be no... These new, what is it, Ugly Dolls and The Intruder are dead. They are dead. Already dead. This movie, second weekend, will trample those two. It will destroy those two. Endgame will... No one's going to see Ugly Dolls. I mean, I am to review it to see if it's that bad. No one's going to see The Intruder. First off, if those movies were just coming out, if Endgame, for some reason, just wasn't out on this weekend, or wasn't much of competition, still, Ugly Dolls and Intruder would not make much money, because nobody cares about those movies. So nonetheless, you're releasing movies that nobody cares about a week after Endgame. So whose decision was this? We want to I think they just want to release a movie in May. But honestly, the Endgame opening is impressive. It's not surprising to me, but holy crap, this movie will make money. We should be seeing way past 2 billion. Way past 2 billion. 3 billion? Maybe. Avatar beat? Maybe. Very, 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 just kind of maybe. We'll see what happens. Endgame will be in the most successful movies of all time very shortly. And this week, I have no doubt it can beat Black Panther really soon, and it can dig itself into the top 10 like that. It will be in the top 10, and in a week or two, in a couple weeks, it'll be in the top 5. And in a couple weeks, it'll be number 2. And then we can see really, can this movie beat Avatar? Alright, what do you guys think on the insane box office of Endgame? I will be making a Phase 4 predictions and just what I want to see in Phase 4 tomorrow because of Endgame. So spoiler warning, for Endgame for that video. But bye.